Training never stops. Stronger every day. There's always a bar in some field that you have not yet reached. Get hyped, get hot, get going. Yes, you. I am pointing at you. Move, damn you! I remember you had a 7-step backflip tutorial on your old website. Dude, you must be old as hell if you remember that. Good memory. Well, a lot of people actually did ask me to follow up on episode 47 and talk more about backflips, so that ties in very well. I learned a backflip from only knowing how to do a cartwheel, and that may sound crazy, but the thing is, you can learn any trick as long as you reverse engineer it enough. Also, this whole method is just for, if you're just training by yourself, you don't have a spot, you can't afford to go take gymnastic classes or whatever, because, it's much better to have people helping you out. But, it was just me, just wanted to do it. I was just practicing it after school every day. So, here's how I turned a cartwheel into a backflip, in roughly 7 steps. I learned it in a month. So those of you who don't know how to do a cartwheel, it's basically getting your legs from one side to the other. Most people think that you have to go vertical right away and then they freak out and fall down and all that stuff. So you don't even have to start high, you can start low and then just gradually build it up as long as your legs get from one side to the other. And you just focus on keeping your legs as straight as you can and keeping them separated. So, once you're comfortable with that and you have the cartwheel. I was thinking, well, a cartwheel, and then I need to learn like a back handspring or something if I'm going to learn a backflip. But how do I do that exactly? So my next guess was just to go and do a cartwheel from a squatting position. I thought that I would need to turn this over somehow. So the more I did it, the more I emphasized really reaching overhead with my dominant arm. And then I really started to feel like these muscles here pulling me over, as well as, really putting my hips into it. So it looked, low and awkward for the first bunch of tries, but the more I did it, just really focusing on going upward and, not turning over and looking at the floor right away, but, looking up. So then after doing that a million times, I thought, well, back handspring, so I should bring my legs together. It's not, you don't have to keep your legs straight, it's just keeping your knees together for the most part, and then you'll really start to feel even more how your abs are really pulling your hips over. You really feel how the whole body is really arching and pulling itself over. And the more I did this, the more I was thinking about really reaching overhead and trying to actually look up and not look sideways. Because, you turn sideways because you can see the ground right away and you feel safe. But, for these purposes, I really had to start looking up. And this, incidentally, is a capoeira move called a macaco. So that's a nice other thing to learn along the way. And then once I had a decent macaco, you notice that my left arm was pretty much on the ground the whole time. Well, then I was like, okay, so now that I have this, why don't I try jumping into this? Like, instead of a squat into a cartwheel, let me squat and jump into this hoo-ha I've been doing. And that's a little bit awkward, but that's like, freeing yourself from touching the ground all the time. And as always, emphasizing the reaching overhead thing. So, once I got comfortable with this was the hardest part. This one took the most work. And this, like in episode 47, is where having yourself on video really, really, really comes in handy. Because then I had to straighten myself out. So it was turning over very gradually because it's scary. It's natural. Going backwards is the scariest thing. So turning myself over, I actually had to turn my head and look at my right arm to even myself out. Like, it was that much of an adjustment. I would really feel like I straightened out and I'd see myself on video and I wasn't. I had to overemphasize my other side just that much, but just repetition, 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 and eventually it did get straightened out, which was nice. And once I had it evened out, then I realized that I didn't need to start from a squatting position. I could do it from standing super easy. Having learned to jump back from a squat actually gave me a lot more control over it. I really didn't have to set like gymnasts do. Like, I could do it quickly, I could do it slowly. The next couple of steps, turning it from a back handspring into a backflip, actually came kind of by accident. I was really happy with just having a back handspring, so I was just doing them all the time, and I would just jump higher and higher and higher. I actually didn't know I was doing that. One day I was practicing these high-ass back handsprings, and my friend Chris, who was a gymnast, said, "Dude, you're super high, just tuck your legs." I was like, tuck my legs, is that it, really? So I did, and then this happened, or a good approximation of it. That's pretty much what my first backflip looked like. King of the world. Woo. Anyway. Yeah, that's basically it. I mean, once you can do a back handspring, you can already jump back and high sufficiently enough to get onto your hands. So if you start to tuck midway through and you panic, you can still land on your hands, just as long as you don't freak out and turn sideways or anything like that. I've freaked out mid-backflip a couple of times. I think everybody who learns a backflip pretty much does at some point or another. Okay, so the big question is, after you have a backflip, how do you clean it up and put some height on it? Well, let's look at the difference between these two backflips, here and here. So this is what I was talking about at the end of episode 47, about getting the center of your body as high as possible. Most people, especially self-taught backflip people, will just jump back right away. If you have sufficient height, then you're not really worrying about how clean it looks. But it can look so much better if you just jump straight up to begin with. And that's a really nerve-wracking thing. I found out this neat trick is that when you're standing there and you're about to do a backflip, look at a point on the wall that's roughly, basically the same height as your eye line. And just stare at that, and when you jump up, keep your eyes on it for as long as possible and tuck at the very last second. And that's going to feel super weird. It feels way different from just throwing back. But by doing it that way, you maximize your height and you get used to jumping straight up. And it looks cleaner. You'll do it in pretty much one spot. And once you eventually get up to tumbling out of like a back handspring to a backflip or a cartwheel or a round off to a backflip, and then you keep that habit in mind, then you just have super high, beautiful ass backflips, man. It's the greatest. Okay, so to emphasize again, get yourself on video, teaching yourself anything, and like that whole process I just said, you can reverse engineer pretty much any trick. Every trick out there has some kind of precursor. You just have to keep on breaking it down until you really understand it and what you need to build on to get to that point. And also, after this, being able to do a backflip from a squatting position, that's not particularly hard either. So that's it. Train hard, be safe, document the process, and if there's any other trick that you want a breaking down of, then message me and let me know. It's not like I'm into this sort of thing.